Olivia had always imagined her wedding day would be filled with light, golden strands of sun slipping through white curtains, soft laughter, and the slow melody of a piano echoing in the distance. She never thought it would be like this. A courthouse. 2 witnesses. No flowers, no vows. Just signatures and a ring that wasn't even hers. Her hand trembled slightly as she slid the band onto her finger. Across from her stood Noah Hayes, a man she barely knew. Sharp-suited, sharp-jawed, and sharper still in the way he avoided looking at her. His silence was practiced. Controlled. Like someone who had spent years hiding something under layers of perfectly tailored detachment. They didn't smile at each other. They barely made eye contact. It wasn't love. It wasn't even friendship. It was an arrangement, a carefully structured, mutually beneficial lie. Noah needed to keep his family's legacy intact, and that meant appearing settled. Respectable. Married. Olivia, well, she needed a way out. Her father's medical bills had turned into cliffs she couldn't climb. She was drowning slowly, and Noah, or more accurately, Noah's legal team, had offered her a lifeline. A marriage of convenience. 1 year. Separate lives. No questions, no emotions, just signatures and silence. It was supposed to be clean. Simple. But nothing that starts with a lie ever stays that way. They moved into the penthouse a week later, his world, not hers. Marble floors, glass walls, everything humming with the low throb of wealth. Olivia felt like a visitor in a museum, where nothing was meant to be touched. She tiptoed around the place, unsure of where to sit, how to breathe. Noah kept his distance. He had a separate room, a separate schedule, and a separate aura entirely. She only saw him in passing, reading emails, answering curt phone calls, staring out at the city skyline like it owed him something. But sometimes, she caught him looking. Not for long, just flickers, glances across the breakfast table, the faintest hesitation in his step when she walked into the room. And at night, when she couldn't sleep, she wondered what he saw in her. A stranger in his house. A woman he paid to wear his last name. She told herself she didn't care. But the truth sat heavy in her chest. Weeks passed. The silence between them thickened, but not in a cruel way. It began to feel familiar. Like the pause before music. Like still water waiting for movement. One evening, she found him sitting alone in the study. No phone, no laptop. Just a record player humming something old and slow. He didn't look up when she entered, but he didn't tell her to leave either. She sat across from him, unsure why. No words were exchanged that night. But something shifted. Something small. Like the first crack in a wall. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was no longer entirely pretend. The days continued to pass in quiet rhythm. Noah and Olivia moved around each other like shadows, aware, but never colliding. There was no forced intimacy, no pretended affection for the sake of appearances. Just space. And silence. And something unspoken in between. But it was in that silence that the truth began to form. Olivia started to leave her shoes near the couch instead of her closet. She stopped whispering on the phone with her sister, unafraid of being overheard. The space that had felt sterile and cold slowly began to show traces of her presence, a sweater on the arm of a chair, a half-read novel on the kitchen counter, a teacup left behind like a small rebellion against the life she had agreed to fake. And Noah, he began to respond. Not with grand gestures or warm words, that wasn't his language. But in subtle ways. She noticed he started eating breakfast later, just enough to share the space with her. She noticed he fixed the leaking faucet in her bathroom, even though she never told him it was broken. She noticed that the music in the evenings shifted, from brooding jazz to soft acoustic, the kind she once told him reminded her of home. He still didn't speak much, but his quiet grew softer. Less like a wall, more like a room. One evening, the power went out. A sudden blackout. The city outside still glowed, but the apartment turned dark. Olivia stood in the hallway, holding a candle, uncertain whether to laugh or panic. Noah appeared with a flashlight, his shirt sleeves rolled up, no usual armor in sight. "I guess this is what they call a real marriage moment," she said quietly, surprising herself. He didn't smile, not exactly. But something moved in his expression. Something like recognition. They sat on the floor that night, sharing takeout in the dark, the candlelight flickering between them. And for the first time, they talked. Not just pleasantries, but real words. He told her about the pressure of carrying a family name he never asked for. She told him about the weight of pretending everything was fine while her father's health deteriorated silently for years. They didn't touch. But something did. That night, after they each returned to their separate rooms, Olivia couldn't sleep. Her chest felt full in a way that wasn't pain, not quite. Something between ache and wonder. A strange anticipation. The next few weeks shifted in tone. Noah began to ask her things. How she liked her coffee. What she read as a child. And Olivia stopped filtering her answers. She laughed more. Cooked once. Left music playing in the kitchen. And when he lingered in the doorway, she didn't look away. Their marriage remained legally the same. No public change. No announcement. No photographs. But inside the apartment, everything felt different. Until the phone call came. A family event. His parents were hosting a large anniversary celebration. The guest list was public. Their appearance, mandatory. "We'll have to act the part," Noah said one evening, adjusting his cufflinks. Olivia looked at him from the edge of the room. She had almost forgotten that this was still a game. At the party, they held hands. For the first time. It was meant to be performance, a gesture for the crowd. But Olivia felt his fingers tighten around hers. Not out of duty, but protection. A silent message. "I see you. I'm here." They danced once. Slowly. No one said a word. But eyes followed. And Olivia felt, for the first time, that she belonged somewhere. Not because of the ring. But because of the way he looked at her, like she wasn't pretending anymore. That night, back in the apartment, she stood by her bedroom door for a long moment. Noah passed her in the hallway, hesitated, and then stopped. She turned. And this time, there was no need for performance. No contracts. No instructions. Just two people who had lied their way into something real. He stepped closer, and she didn't move away. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Because sometimes, love doesn't arrive like lightning. It grows, slowly, where no one expects. In quiet rooms. Through accidental glances. And inside a lie that turns, over time, into the only truth that matters.